Welcome back to District 11 of Washington State Little League's online scorekeeping class. This is video 3. This video is aimed at those who are scorekeeping in either the majors or the juniors division. If you're still new to scorekeeping, I really encourage you to go back and watch video number 2, which is how to set up your book and score a basic game. We are going to pick up using the same game that we had in video 2. Now we are going to kind of add a little more detail like I would do if it was going to be either a majors game or a juniors game. So, for example, in video 2, we learned that if a player is advancing from one base to another base, that the best way to kind of note that was with an SB for stolen base. Lots of ways for them to advance. SB is just kind of an easy one as you're learning. Now that we are working with a little bit older kids, we want to differentiate between a stolen base, a wild pitch, and a passed ball. So, for example, let's kind of pick up where we left off here. The home team was batting. We are starting the bottom of the 3rd inning, and you can see our current batter is number 9, Jake Hagedorn. So, we're going to go ahead and we want to get Jake on base. So, we are going to give Jake a couple of balls. So there's pitch 1. Remember to keep your pitch count going if you're doing a baseball game. A second ball. And then Jake is going to hit a single. So I'm going to circle again that 1B to denote that was a single. I'm going to move Jake on the field there from home to first base. I'm going to notate that pitch. Now, one of the things that I like to do once we get to the majors and juniors levels is kind of make a slight note to myself about where that ball went. So let's say that Jake hit it out here to kind of shallow right field. I'm just going to draw a light line from home plate out to about where that ball stopped. Some people will just put an X where the ball landed. I don't want to draw a dark line. I have other things that I'm going to be doing, but just kind of an idea of where that ball went. It's great for managers when they're trying to identify different hitting strengths or weaknesses with their kids. It's also really good if you're perhaps keeping the book in the dugout, because you can now tell your defenders where to be standing when certain batters come to the plate. All right, so we've got Jake there on first base, and it is now William's turn to the plate. So William's first pitch will be a strike. We're going to put that X up there to denote that's the first pitch to William. And then we're going to have a wild pitch. So a wild pitch is thrown by the pitcher, and there's just no possible way that the catcher can catch it. Maybe it went over the catcher's head. Maybe it went behind the batter. Either way, the catcher is up and scrambling for it. So that's a ball to the batter. If no one is on base, it's a ball, and that is life. But in this case, Jake is going to advance. So I'm going to draw again that line from first to second. And then I'm going to use WP to notate that he advanced on a wild pitch. And then, of course, last thing, I'm going to mark that pitch. All right. William takes another strike. Mark that pitch. Then he's going to foul off a ball. So we're going to mark that one up in that little box, remember, in the little triangle. We're going to mark that pitch. And then he is going to have a swinging strikeout. So again, forward K, 1 out, and then notate that pitch. Okay, William was the bottom of our batting order, so we will now go back up to the top for Ryan Smith. We are still in the 3rd inning. So Ryan Smith is going to take a strike for his first pitch. Gonna put my X to denote that pitch 22 was the first pitch to Ryan, and then a ball. We'll denote that. And then Ryan is going to hit a double. So we're just going to kind of draw the line out there. We're going to circle the 2B. Draw our arrows indicating Ryan went home. Jake, of course, was on second. So he came home. I'm going to make my kind of light zigzags. And I'm going to record that pitch. Okay. So now I have Ryan out there on second. Okay, so Liam comes back to the plate. And Liam is going to get a ball for his first pitch. He gets an X again. All right. And then Liam is going to hit the ball to our shortstop, who fumbles it, and Liam is going to reach first base. So instead of that being a 6-3 out, we're going to go ahead and draw the line for Liam there. But he did not technically hit a single. He reached on an error. So inside of that line, I am going to put a capital E, followed by the number 6. I'm going to mark his pitch. And because it was the shortstop, Ryan was held there on second. So the E6 is telling me that Liam reached base due to an error by the shortstop. Sometimes it's going to be very obvious who committed the error, and you can put the E with the position number. Other times, there's just going to be a whole lot going on, and a lot of times with kids, if somebody makes an error, then somebody else is going to make an error. Do the best you can to try and determine it. If you can't figure out who did it, just put the E. You know they reached on an error, even if you don't know exactly who made the error. Okay, so now we have 2 runners on, and we've got Jared up to the plate. So let's go ahead here. We're going to give Jared a strike. So we're going to X out pitch 27 there. We'll give him a ball. That's pitch 28. And then Jared's going to hit that ball over to our third baseman. Now, remember, we've got a force situation here. So Jared's, the third baseman, is going to field that ball and step on third base. So again, it's Ryan who is now out. So we're going to draw that line and cap it off. That was a U5 because it was unassisted by that third baseman. So he is our second out. Liam has gone to second base. And Jared is now on first base due to that fielder's choice. I'm going to mark my pitch. So we talked a little bit about fielder's choice in video 2. Fielder's choice is where normally you would put the ball into play in the infield, and in this case, your third baseman would scoop it up and throw it to first base for the out. In a fielder's choice, that fielder decides to get a runner at a different base out, but they could have gotten the runner at first if they chose to do so. So the runner on first is there due to the fielder's choice. It is not considered a hit, so I'm not circling the 1B. And in this case, Ryan Smith was the one put out. Okay, so we've got runners on first and second. And now Luke Strider's going to come to the plate. And he's going to take a ball. So we'll X on 30 there. And another ball. Okay, then he's going to do a couple of strikes. So there's strike 1, slash, strike 2, slash. So Luke is there with a 2-2 count. And the next pitch comes across the plate. And it is not just a ball, it's called a passed ball. In that, like how a wild pitch, there's just no way the catcher could have caught that pitch. A passed ball is when a pitch is delivered to the catcher that they should have been able to catch, but for whatever reason, they did not catch it. So for Luke's purposes, it's just a ball. However, both Liam and Jared are going to advance one base. And just like the way we notated our wild pitch, we're going to put PB next to both of them for passed ball. Okay, and then of course, note the pitch. So Liam advanced from second to third, and Jared advanced from first to second, both on the passed ball. All right. Luke Strider is sitting here with our full count. And he is going to go ahead and strike out as well. So we're going to give him that looking strikeout with the backward K. He is our third out. We're going to go ahead and make our end of the half inning mark. I'm going to record that pitch. Go back and look. Okay, once again, we have one run that was scored. So we'll come down here to the bottom. We'll put the 1. We now have 3 total runs. So 3 goes in that circle so that when people ask you what's the score, you can say, oh, it is 3-3. Now we're going to come back once again and count our pitches. So we started with pitch number 14. We're going to start down here at the bottom because Jake was our first batter. 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. 21 was the strikeout. 22, 23, 24 was the double. 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, 33, 34, 35, that is what I have. I'm going to circle that 35 to denote that was the end of that inning. All right, so now we come back over. I'm going to flip my book around. Sorry about that little sunspot. I'm going to try and get it out of the way there. Nope, not going to work. Okay. We come back over to our visiting side. Now, at the end of video 2, we had Owen who was at the plate, and Kai was caught stealing for our third out while Owen was still in the middle of his at-bat. So we used the dashed end of batting mark to denote that when we come back in the 4th inning, Owen is still our batter. Now he starts over with a new count. All right, so Owen is starting over. Let's say we've got a new pitcher. So we had 5 here and we look up and they're putting in a new pitcher. So we're just going to say that 7 is our new pitcher. So I'm going to denote that 1 in the 2nd spot. And this is the top of the 4th. So a little up arrow. And the 4 And then we are going to move Liam here. He's going to go out to position 7. Again, top 4. Okay, so our new pitcher is Scott. He is number 7. So we come back over here. Gonna put that 7 in. And like we kind of talked about last time, I'm going to look on number 5. His last X was on pitch 60. So 60 was going to be his total pitch count, his pitch of record. So that's written 60 down there at the bottom. And we're going to start this 4th inning with number 7 on the mound. So Owen's going to come up to the plate. And the first pitch is going to be a strike. So I'm going to note the strike. And I'm going to put that X on the little number 1 under pitcher 7. Okay. The next thing that he's going to get is a second strike. So slash that one. And then he's going to hit the ball just kind of between the third baseman and the second baseman there. So we're going to go ahead and put him on with a single. So there's our single. There's our pitch. All right, so Zach has now come up to the plate. And Zach is feeling pretty muscly today, so he's just going to take that first pitch and send it way out there to deep right field. So we're going to go ahead and give him that triple. So Owen, of course, is going to come all the way around, and he is going to score. And then we will notate that Zach is over here on third. And of course, that pitch gets an X because it was the first pitch to Zach. All right, Tanner's going to come up to the plate. And he's going to take strike 1. So pitch number 5 is going to get an X. He's going to take strike 2. 6 gets a slash. And then he's going to swing for the fences and go nowhere, resulting in out number 1. That is pitch number 7. Okay. Andrew now comes up. And he's going to take strike 1. So I'm going to put that X up there on pitch 8. He's going to take ball 1. Strike 2. And then that next pitch is going to come across the plate. And it's going to be a beautiful strike. And Andrew's going to swing at it. But the catcher fails to catch it. Now at this level, usually you're going to start hearing the teammates go, run, 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 run. And Andrew takes off running for first base on that uncaught third strike. Generally speaking, your catchers are going to grab that ball and they're going to throw it down to first base and they're going to get that kiddo out. So let's have that be our example. Our catcher is going to throw that ball down to first base and get that kiddo out. So that is a 2-3. Catcher to first baseman. That's our second out. And then we're going to notate that pitch. So we still have Zach sitting over here on third. He just decided to hold in the craziness there. Okay. So Cade is our next batter. And Cade is going to come up. And he is going to hit that ball kind of right there towards that second baseman. And the second baseman's going to field that ball for the out. So that is a 4-3 for 3 outs. We're going to mark an X because that was his first pitch. We're going to mark that that half inning was over. Again, we had one player cross the plate. We're going to put our 1, put our 4 in the circle so we know our total. Now we're starting over here with pitcher number 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 pitches. 12 is what I have. So I'm going to circle it. Now, in the event that your pitch count does not line up with your book, sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes there's a lot of things going on the field and it's kind of crazy and you're trying to pay attention to who's going where and you might miss a pitch. That's part of the reason that I go back and count it up at the end of the inning. Generally, your book, is going to be correct. So I will usually, if I have a discrepancy, I will usually count it through 2 more times, and then I will adjust wherever I need to adjust. I do like to have those X's on the first pitches. So there are times where you will see me go back and erase 4, 5, 6, 12 pitches so that I can redo them in the correct order, making sure I get those X's on the first pitch. All right, moving back to our home team. We're going to flip this over here. All right, we're starting off the 4th inning. I'm going to go back up and adjust this from an example that I did in video 2. All right, so in the 4th inning, and Matthew Gregory is our first batter. All right, so Matthew comes up to the plate, and he is going to take a ball for pitch 1. So we're going to X that because that's his first pitch. The next ball that comes across the plate is a wild pitch. However, we don't have any runners on base, so that just counts as a ball to Matthew. Okay, now let's say for Matthew's 3rd pitch, we have what's called an illegal pitch. So perhaps the pitcher got onto the pitching plate and dropped the ball. Or perhaps the pitcher did not start with their feet properly on the pitching plate. The umpire is going to call illegal pitch, especially in majors and minors. So majors and minors, illegal pitch, that is a ball to the batter. So that is a 3rd ball, whether or not the pitch was actually delivered. Most of the time, the umpires will turn around and tell the scorekeepers that's a ball to the batter. Not always, but now you know if there's an illegal pitch called in majors or minors, that is going to be a ball to the batter. All right, Matthew is going to go ahead and take one more ball for ball 4. So we're going to circle that BB for base on balls. And we're going to go ahead and move him up to first base there and then notate the pitch. All right, we are back to Scott Wallace, who is batting in our 6th hole. All right, Scott's going to come up to the plate and he's going to take strike 1. So we're going to put that X to notate him there. And then he too is going to get a wild pitch. Well, the problem is we now have a runner on base. So while Scott is going to get the ball, we're going to go ahead and advance Matthew there and just put that WP to note that he advanced on the wild pitch. And then we'll go ahead and mark that pitch down so that we know that we have gotten it recorded. Okay, so now Scott's going to get another strike. So we've got 1 ball and 2 strikes. And this time, when the ball comes across the plate and it's called strike three, and once again, our catcher fails to catch it. Now, last time this happened, the catcher was able to scoop it up and throw it to first base for the out, which we recorded as a 2-3. This time, however, the catcher has to take a few minutes to find the ball. Scott over here successfully reaches first base. So, because that uncaught third strike was uncaught by our catcher, we are going to denote that as an E2, an error on our catcher. Now, once Matthew here, who was on second, realizes that the catcher's looking around everywhere and cannot find that ball, that base coach is going to start yelling at him. So he's going to go ahead and advance to third. That is also a result of that E2. It was because the catcher made the error that Matthew was able to advance. And of course, last thing, mark that pitch off. All righty. Next one up is Pax Ryan. All right, last time you can see with our L5, he hit a line drive straight to our third baseman. Okay, so this time Pat comes up to the plate. He's going to take a strike for pitch one. We'll go ahead and cross that off. All right. And then he's going to hit a pop-up kind of directly above the plate there, maybe a little behind the plate. And our pitcher is going to go ahead and catch that. So that would be a P2, pop-up caught by the catcher. It's our first out. We're going to denote the pitch. Sometimes if the catcher catches it and it's in foul territory, sometimes I'll just put a little F in front of the P so that I know it was caught in foul territory. Regardless, it's a P2. So if you want the F or not want the F, doesn't really make a difference there. Okay, so now our visiting team is feeling like, I think we might want to go ahead and pull our pitcher again. This guy's he's not doing really great. So we're going to go ahead while we're at a pause here and make that squiggle between the two batters there so that I know, hey, this is where the pitcher changed. We're going to come over to number 11's pitch count, starting with 36. So 36, 37, 38, 39, 40, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, 45 is correct. I am not circling it though because we are in the middle of an inning. I am going to look and notice that the last X was on 44. So I'm going to write 44 down there at the bottom in the pitch totals so that I know that he threw 44 pitches. And then I'll go ahead and flip my book back over to this side so that we can figure out what exactly our coach over here wants to do. Okay, so the coach is kind of looking around at everybody, and he decides that he's going to take that shortstop, number 19 there, and we're going to make number 19 our new pitcher. So I'm going to go ahead and drop that 1 under the 6. Now, we are in the bottom of the 4th inning, so I'm going to make that downward arrow with the 4. So I know that he came in the 4th inning. And we'll just make a nice, easy swap here. Owen, who was at pitcher, he's now going to go over to shortstop. You can put the downward arrow with the 4. I'm not really going to worry about that because he's staying on the infield. I like to track my pitchers and my catchers. As far as my infielders and outfielders, I want to make sure that they're getting their innings. So as long as I know he's in there. Okay, so our new pitcher was number 19. We'll come back here to the home team, go back up here to the very top, and put 19 into the next batter's pitcher counter there. All right, so he's going to come and do his warm-up pitches. And then Noah Daniels is going to be the first batter that he faces. All right, so he's going to go ahead and start off with giving Noah a strike, which is always nice. So we're going to make that X on pitch number 1 up here under 19. And then we're going to give him a ball. So make that X2. And then once again, our poor pitcher throws a wild pitch. So Noah is just going to get that extra ball. Meanwhile, Matthew is going to come in and score, and Scott is going to advance to second. So I'm going to write, again, that WP next to both of those lines so that I know that they both advanced on the wild pitch, but Matthew came in and scored, so I'm going to color his box in. I mentioned in video 2, part of the reason I kind of zigzag instead of coloring them all the way is sometimes I have words or letters on the inside, in this case that WP. I want to be able to still see those while knowing that he crossed the plate. Last thing we do, as always, is to mark down that pitch. Okay, Noah is then going to hit a really nice ball that falls out in shallow left field. So we're going to draw that line there. We're going to go ahead and give him the single, circling that 1B. And then Scott, of course, advanced on that hit. I'm going to mark my pitch up there. And now David Weiland is back to our plate. All right. We are going to go ahead and give David a ball to start off. Give him the X. And then a second ball. So we're going to do a slash there. And then he is going to hit that ball right to our shortstop, who decides to take advantage of that fielder's choice. So he is going to throw it over there to his buddy, Mr. Second Baseman. So we're going to have that 6-4 play for the second out. And David here reached on the fielder's choice. And meanwhile, Scott up here, he came on in. So we'll draw his box. We'll go ahead and zigzag him. Again, I want to be able to see the E2 that's inside there so I don't color it all the way in. And then I add my pitch. All right, Adam in the 10 hole here. He is our next batter. He is going to come up to the plate. And he is going to get strike 1. So he'll get an X there up on our pitching chart. He'll get strike 2. That'll go back up on our pitching chart. And then he is going to swing for the fences and come up empty for his second K of the day. Out number 3. Pitch is denoted. Cap it off, showing that that's the end. Okay, we've got 2 runs, which we can easily tell. We're going to put our 2. That's 5 total in the circle. We've already counted the pitches thrown by number 11, and we've already verified those are correct. So now we're counting the pitches thrown by 19. We can very easily find our squiggle and know that we are starting with Noah. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And that's what we have. So we're going to go ahead and circle that 10. So once again, we can see that we had a pitching change in the second inning. No circle. There's the end of the second. There's the end of the third. We had another pitching change. And now we have come to the end of the fourth. So those are some of the things to work with when you are scorekeeping a majors game. The uncaught third strike, usually known as the drop third strike. The official name is uncaught. Marking where those hits went. Working more fluidly with fielder's choice plays. Notating if it is a stolen base, a wild pitch, or a passed ball. And then having those defensive substitutions again, making sure that we're notating where the player is going and then what inning, top or bottom, and what inning that they are moving. We don't necessarily need to know where every single player is. We just need to know if they're coming in or if they're leaving the game. We want to be able to track it and tell on our scorebook to make sure that each player got 6 defensive outs in the field. They do not have to be consecutive. They just have to be 6 defensive outs. Okay, now we're going to move on to a couple of things that you will see at the juniors level. Okay, so this is a juniors game that was scored a couple of years ago, and I'm just going to zoom in a little bit. The first thing that you will notice at our juniors level, we once again have our positions on the field, and then you can see the little defensive notations. In the top of the 7th, this player went to center field. In the top of the 3rd, this player came in to pitch. One of the big things that you're going to notice at the junior level is that I personally no longer use dots to notate my strikes and outs. I use numbers. So whatever the first pitch is, that's going to get a 1. The second pitch gets a 2. The third pitch gets a 3. And so on and so forth. You can see up here in this box that there were a couple of those foul balls after the second strike. So pitch 1 was a ball, 2 was a strike, 3 was a ball, 4 was a strike. Pitch 5 was fouled off, so that 5 is tucked up in that little triangle. 6 was another ball. 7 was once again fouled off. It's up in the little triangle. And then pitch 8, our player was finally walked. The reason for doing this, honestly, I had a coach once at this level who asked me if I would do it. He wanted to track for his pitchers how many first pitch strikes they were throwing. It's a little bit trickier to do it this way. If occasionally you happen to miss a pitch and you don't know what was thrown, you're kind of stuck on hold. So I'll usually go ahead and make that little dot and then change it once I know what the pitch was. The next thing, so you can still see I've got those arrows, just like in majors, showing where each ball was hit. One of the things that I do introduce at this level, if a player hits an RBI, then obviously we're going to go ahead and denote that the run was scored, but you'll see I have a little lowercase I that I put there kind of below RBB, just to denote that this player, in this case player Johnson, hit an RBI on that single. If they drive in 2 or 3 runs, then I will just put 2 or 3 little lowercase i's there to denote that those were multiple RBIs. The last thing that you're really going to see at the juniors level is a balk. So I talked about there was an illegal pitch in majors and minors. In juniors, on the baseball side, we have a balk, which is their illegal pitch. If there are no runners on base, that balk is treated as a ball to the batter, same as with the younger divisions. If there are runners on base, then those runners are going to advance 1 base, and you're going to put BK as your reasoning for those runners advancing. Okay, last thing I noticed I forgot to mention, HBP. You can kind of see that we have one up here. HBP denotes that this player was hit by the pitch, and that is why he took first base. So HBP. I will go over that one again in video 4. I will see you all there.